Here we go then, it's Tuesday night, we're back in the pain cave, it's WTRL Zwift Racing League time again. This is the Syco-list, let's get on with it. So here we go then, starting this one off, having done the Recon video of this one last week, which was on YouTube. I thought I knew the course pretty well. I knew where things were going to happen. The only thing I wasn't aware of was how this race was going to pan out. I knew the points in the course that were going to be tricky and things could happen, but I was unsure how our race would pan out. Having watched some of the earlier races this morning, I was sort of aware that people would start attacking this first sprint, the alley sprint, just as we pass this left-hand junction. So I sort of knew people would build up here and start moving off for the sprint. As you can see here, people are starting to make their moves for that sprint. My intention here was just to try and stay with the pack as much as I could. Wasn't going to contest the points, I'm not a sprinter. Other teammates have gone for it, so the main thing was get through this sprint and not get dropped off the pace as they went through, because it probably wouldn't settle down too much after that. As we move through Neokio, it's very flat, so I just wanted to stay with this front group, and if it started to sort of ease off a little bit, then that's all good. But if the pace was to stay high, then I needed to stay with that, because literally through the streets of Neokio now, I knew it was going to be flat. I knew it was going to stay like this until we got out into Slot Canyon, where I'd have the descent down towards the beach. So wanted to stay in a good position here, not do too much work, but hold my position within this group. So I managed to hold my position fairly well within the group. Just trying to change my camera view for some reason. I don't know what I was trying to do. One tried to get away here. Myself and teammate just sort of quickly closed that down, just not to let it happen. Not really a lot happening in the AK. It was like I thought it would be, on and off the pace a little bit. We're sort of 6 minutes into this race. I've averaged 295 watts. Pace is fairly good as we come into the arcade here. Didn't really think anything would happen. The descent down onto the beach might break it up a little bit, but yeah, nothing really to talk about. I think people are getting ready for the climb later on, which will take us up to the second sprint of the day with the FTS and FAL points available on the second sprint as well. So one thing to note here is obviously on my Recon, I said it was going to be 100% aero boost. But having watched the races earlier on in the day, there is 3 power-ups available, so you might see other people with different power-ups in this race this evening. The aero boost, the draft boost and the feather up were all available within this race. Not sure quite what happened, but WTRL had published it was only 100% aero boost, but in game it changed and we had to adapt to that. So from my recce, I knew that this tunnel was going to take us out into Canyon Slot, where the terrain would change and we'd go onto more gravel sort of surface. So I wanted to be near the front for this. Did that quite well, positioned myself well, and sort of moved up towards the front a little bit here, knowing that we were going to go into a descent shortly. Again, not really wanting to do too much, resting where I could. Sort of 10 minutes into this race now, still 292 average power, so sort of still working well. Knowing that I had to do the climbs in a little bit was going to be my downfall, because I had to sort of try and hold those climbs for as long as I could to get to the sprint. So that was in the back of my mind as we made the descent here. A bit of rest, sort of manage my race well. Know that the climbs was going to be the thing that I'd drop back on. Obviously having my teammates around me in this race was really good. The lads from Level Racing Esports, I think there were 6 of us in this race. The green jersey is quite easy to pick out in the pack. Sort of various times we move forward, other people take the front a bit more than others. No one's really making an effort. The team haven't made an effort off the front. We're literally sitting in the pack. I think the strategy we had was knowing that the climbs were going to be the key points, and to try and push over the top for the sprint as well was going to be a tough one. So sort of holding back, just sitting in that main group, staying top 20 riders, just preparing for whatever's going to happen. But knowing that we're on the flat now, the beach and the harbour, just sitting in, preparing for that wooden bridge to come to take us on that first climb. So as we've just crossed over that bridge, I knew they would take this right hand turn which would lead us down to the wooden bridge that I was aware of in my recon of this race, that would take us to the bottom of that first climb. So I've slowed it down here. You can see that I've positioned near to the front for the wooden bridge, turning right here, and that's going to be the start of the first climb. The aim was to try and stick with this group as best I could up the climb. Might have to dig deep, but just to hold this group as long as I could going up that climb. Hopefully stay with it towards the top, not contest the sprint, but try and stay with the group through the sprint segment. As you can see here, I'm working hard, putting out the watts, trying to stay with that group, just keeping an eye on the heads up display of what the elevation's doing. Then I get a little bit of respite in the lighter colours. The yellow and the blue areas would give me a little bit of respite. Not used my power up yet, I've still got that in reserve, but aero boost isn't really going to help me much here. A few feather ups I've seen pop up around me. So I'm holding it quite well, sort of sticking to the top 20 still, hoping that I can just hold on. I knew this was a bit of a drag, but sticking to my plan of holding that top 20, and hopefully I can get through the top of this one okay. The thing is, at this point here I've started pushing hard on the pedals. I've noticed that a few riders have come past me and I'm slowly going backwards. Still putting out sort of over 400 watts, just trying to stay in these wheels at the moment. There's not far to go until the top and we get a bit of a respite with the downhill section, but like I say, I've started to drift backwards a little bit, back into 27th, 28th place at the moment, and people are just coming past me using their feather up power ups and boost drafts and things as they come past me. A couple of my teammates here passing me. But as we get to the top of this one, we're going to be straight into the second sprint of the day, the Shisa Sprint. So still 400 watts I'm putting out here, just needing to hold those wheels really. Use the aero boost there just to try and get back in the wheels a little bit. But I'm slowly slipping and not really gaining on those riders in front of me. And I think this is where my race is probably going to end, because if I don't get across to that front group, I'll be quickly dropped because they're not going to lose momentum. As you can see, coming into the second sprint here, I'm sort of stuck really. I've dropped off that front group and everyone's sprinting. I've not really got a sprint in me. I've even sat up here and sort of given up a little bit and then realised I've got to get back on it. So back on the pedals, trying to get through this sprint. And I am trying to put an effort in to see if I can close some gaps, but it just feels like everyone's just going past me at the moment. Onto the descent here. I'm in a group at the moment. Hopefully they'll start working and we'll start pulling back those sprinters that might ease up at the front. On this descent, I've tried to put in a bit of a dig to try and see if we can close some gaps, but it looks like the main group have got about 7 seconds on us at the moment and we're not really closing that gap. Picking off the odd rider that's dropped, but we're not really gaining. There wasn't really a lot of working together in this group. It just seemed to be whoever took the front would stay there. So I've sat in here just to think, well, if I stay with the group and just rest up a little bit. I know that the final climb off of the beach is going to come in a little while, and that would be the one that takes us up towards the finish. So we've just over 3 miles left to go. My plan is just to stick with this group now. Nobody's here is willing to close down that group in front. They've got 11 seconds in us, so just sit with this group now and go for the best result I can get for the team and bring in some points for finishing points in this points race. So as I come around here, that group in front of sort of about 6 seconds ahead now. So we did close the gap on them a little bit, but as we go into the bottom of this sort of final climb, there wasn't a lot of place for me to go really. I knew that this was going to be a climb in 2 sections, but not being a great climber, I just had to dig deep. The effort's there, the watts are there, just dig deep and hope my watts per kilo are fairly good to me. Staying within the group just gives me that momentum to keep pushing. In my head it's like I don't want to get dropped by them, so I keep pushing on the pedals and keep turning it over, and I hold this group fairly well on this climb, which was my plan really. I didn't think we'd close the group in front of us, but I had to stay with what was around me, which we seemed to do quite well on the first part of this climb. Moving on to the second part of the climb, sort of sitting in 37th place. That's probably going to be the highest I could finish, I think, at the moment out of our group. Got one rider's just gone off the front and clearly is pulling away. He's put 6 seconds in us now, so there's no bringing that one back. So the group that I'm in is the best place for me is going to be 37th if I could push for that. But got to get this climb done first. Decided I wasn't going to let anyone else go. If they were going to try and sort of get away from me, then I was going to dig in and close that gap down like I did here. Still sort of in the high 300s, sometimes pushing 400 watts on this climb, knowing that once I get to the top of it, we're going to be on the flat and it's going to be the finish line with less than a mile to go. So coming off the top of that climb, I had sort of dug in deep and stayed with the rider that was trying to get away. Knowing that the rest of this is now flat as we come back towards Neokio, I'm going to cross over the suspension bridge and then back in towards the finish straight for the sprint. Haven't really got a sprint in me today, or any day really, to be honest with you, but the idea was I knew that the right hand fork was coming and I knew where I had to make my attack if I was going to, which was going to be by the exit of the race pens from earlier on. A couple of riders coming past me now, got a teammate behind me as well, which hopefully will either help me or I'll help him depending on how we go, but chased that one down, didn't let him get too far ahead. Just didn't want to go too quickly here because I know that I wanted to be around those race pens. I've used the draft boost. A few riders coming through now, so I'm out of the saddle thinking, well, I've got to go for it. And here we go, into the finishing straight, 500 less to go. And just dig deep, see what position I can get out of this one. So let's see what it's given me. I finished in 38th place, 292 watts, 3.7 watts per kilo. Happy with that. So just cooling down after that one. It was quite a brutal race this evening, not going to lie. But there's another 40 minutes training effort done. Still working on those power figures, which I'm quite happy with. The next Recon video is already out, so please have a look at that for race 3. That looks like it's going to be quite a good one. And please do click that like button, click that subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next one.